Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 13th edition of the Blazersedge VideoCast. I am Dave Deckard from Blazersedge.com, with you to answer your questions about the Portland Trail Blazers. We give thanks, as always, for the brain behind the camera and everybody who sent in questions. It's an exciting time in Blazerland. The draft is fast approaching. Within a couple of weeks, we will begin to know what the new shape of the Trailblazers will look like. We're going to talk about some of those things and plenty of other questions today, so let's get started.
Dave, the Blazers have stated that they're going to hire a coach possibly after free agency begins. Why do you think they would wait so long? The first thing that came to my mind is that they would hope this strategy would entice Darren Williams to come to Portland, as they could tell him he could pick his coach. Do you think ultimately Caleb Canales will be the head coach of this team? Daniel.
As enticing as these thoughts are, I think we need to do a little bit of shaving with Occam's razor here. The Blazers probably aren't going to get Darren Williams, and even if they did, they'd be foolish to let him determine their next coach. First of all, he has kind of a reputation as a coach killer at this point. Second, he's brand new to the team. You don't know him. He doesn't know the organization. What does he know? How are you going to let him make a decision that affects the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years when you've just barely met him and signed him? Also, you got to figure there's some percentage to the Blazers waiting to make this decision. If they want to hire a big-name coach, they need to show him big-name players first, so he'll come to the team. If they want a developmental coach, they need to know what kind of players they're developing, and we won't know that till after the draft and after any ensuing trades. So that makes some sense to wait. But probably the simplest explanation is there are only so many hours in the day. The Blazers just hired Neil Olshey as their GM. Within a couple weeks, the draft will come up. A couple weeks after that, free agency will rear its head. The Blazers need to concentrate on those things first. The coaching hire can wait. There's plenty of time in mid-July, late July to have a full-blown coaching search. Why would you want to distract yourself from these other things by trying to do everything at once and perhaps making the wrong decision in the process?
Dave, you've been fairly vocal in your belief that the Blazers need to decide whether they want to go for it now, trading picks and using cap space on established players, or move their own vets for younger pieces and start over a la Oklahoma City. For a while, I also thought that equalizing the Blazers' core in terms of age was essential if they wanted to have any shot at serious runs in the playoffs. Now I'm starting to reconsider that premise. By holding on to 2 lottery picks, Portland will likely add 2 players to a 20-something core. Having a fairly established group of veterans also makes me more confident in the development of prospective rookies. Is the decision to stick with Aldridge, Batum, and Matthews and work through the draft, in fact, such a bad model to follow? Max,
my friend, you've got the correct assessment of my position, just for the wrong reason. I don't actually favor a single-generation type of roster. Unless that generation is veteran and very talented, like the Dallas Mavericks, for instance, it's probably not going to work. We saw this during the Roy Oden-Aldridge era for the Blazers. All the significant players were of that same young generation. There were no real veterans to make them push for floor time or position. Therefore, they had to learn their lessons from opponents, particularly during the playoffs, and that ended up being the school of hard knocks. I think you need to keep some veteran talent around any young talented guys that you draft so that they can be raised up the right way. However, if you're looking at this particular mix in this rebuild for the Blazers, they're coming up against 2 fairly difficult limits. One is salary cap, and one is talent. Now, I think even if you keep Aldridge and you re-sign Batum, you do have room to add another all-star type player to this roster financially. But you're not going to have room to add much more than that, which begs the question, is one all-star player enough? Unless that guy is LeBron James, the answer to that is no. The Blazers probably wouldn't be propelled into elite status in the West or in the league with the addition of just one guy. So you get to the situation where you are capped out and you may have a nice mix of experience and youth, but you don't have enough talent to make a real go of it. Therefore, I think rebuilding is the proper solution. That does not mean I think the Blazers should instantly divest themselves of all veteran players and go only with youthful draft picks. I think rather they'll be forced to divest themselves of Aldridge eventually, but they don't have to replace him with only young guys. They can still keep a couple veterans around or acquire them in trade or free agency and have them learn up the new guys right. Nevertheless, the future of this team probably lies more with the draft picks that they will acquire over the next few years and any young guys they acquire in trade than it does with LaMarcus and with Nicholas Batum.
Dave, why has no one mentioned Orlando's Jameer Nelson as a possible fit in Portland? He shot 38% last season, averages nearly 6 assists, and can finish around the basket. Rajon Rondo should be the first, second, and third target of the Blazers, but Nelson seems like a candidate as well. What are your thoughts? Michael.
Well, Michael, Jameer Nelson would be a great get if this were still 2010. The problem is his production has been on the decline for the last couple years, offensively and defensively as well. Injuries have just slowed down his game, and he's not the player with the promise that he once showed. Plus, he is 29 years old, and this year will be the last year on his contract. You're going to have to re-sign him, probably at the same $9 million level he is making right now, in order to retain him. And that's going to have to be a contract that runs 2, 3, 4 years. That means you're priced into a spendy point guard who is no more than middle of the road right now, who is not likely to get better, and who is getting older quickly. That's not the kind of deal that the Blazers would want to sign up for, especially since they're not likely to contend in the next couple of years anyway.
Dave, athleticism seems extremely important in today's game, as witnessed by this year's finals participants. How do you rate the Blazers on an athleticism scale of 1 to 10? Signed, Ron.
To answer this question properly, you have to understand how this incarnation of the Blazers was put together. The Blazers, when they designed their team, were not looking for raw athleticism, apparently. They were looking for length, and they were looking for skill. Compare the main guys on this team, for instance, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, Wesley Matthews, to Clyde Drexler, Buck Williams, Jerome Kersey. The latter had far more raw athleticism and strength. These guys are long, they're rangy, they're polished, they have skills on both ends of the floor. You also have to consider that aggression is applied athleticism, and the Blazers don't have a lot of that either. Therefore, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give them about a 3 in terms of athletics. Now, if you want to measure by other quotients, if you want to talk height, if you want to talk skill, if you want to talk talent, that number would go up. But they just don't have those beefy, brawny, raw, bull-headed athletes that they have had in the past and that some other teams have, even today.
Dave, something we haven't talked about much is the Blazers being able to auction for the rights to amnesty players this year if they're under the cap. A couple of names being rumored are Brendan Haywood and Elton Brand. Do we have room for another all-star caliber power forward on this team? I don't see how you could pass on the opportunity to sign Brand if he can be had for cheap. Do you think the Blazers will remain under the cap for just such an opportunity? Justin.
That's a fantastic point, Justin, and a good argument for the Blazers remaining below the cap as long as possible. The caveat here is you never know who's going to be amnestied, and almost always it's damaged goods. So you're not getting a full-fledged player, you're kind of buying as is. But the cost is quite low compared to the potential rewards, so the risk level is really acceptable. And this would be a great way for the Blazers to just add some raw talent to the roster. Their problem is, as we've talked about before, they're going to have to use their cap space fairly quickly and efficiently this summer. So I don't know if they're going to be able to wait around long enough to take advantage of a lot of players who might be amnestied. However, if you see players come off of other teams' books early on in the free agency period, the Blazers just might try to save a little bit of room to bid for them.
Dave, are you ever going to give us your draft picks or stratagems for this year? Signed, the Prof.
Yes, indeed. We are going to go over all of the draft prospects and strategies very, very soon. That's kind of unfolding on Blazers Edge as we speak. Day by day, we're going through each potential draft pick and talking about strengths and weaknesses. I'd like to let that unfold and have the research be complete before we sum it all up here next week. But not to leave you out in the cold, we want to whet your appetite a little. So we have a special interview with a guy who I understand is an original season ticket holder of the Blazers, so we think his perspective should be fairly valuable. So let's throw it over to that interview right now.
And now it's time for An Old Man Talks About Basketball. Maybe.
So what's this all about, Sonny? The blood pressure or the diabetes?
We want to know what you think about the draft.
Eh?
The draft!
Yeah, there's a draft in here. It's cold. What's the matter? Didn't you pay the electric bill? Turn up the heat.
No, the NBA draft. The Trailblazers.
Oh, the Trailblazers. Yeah, I was an original season ticket holder. I sure was. That was back in 7-0 it was. Yeah, they had a great team, and they played the game right back then. Played Buffalo and Cleveland 20 times each. You knew your opponents, and they was gentlemen. Yeah, had fantastic players. They had Edelman and Petrie. It was great. We were hooting and hollering, and then they went and ruined it all. Ruined it! Got rid of my tickets and never went back. I'll tell you who ruined it, too. Larry Steele. Yeah, long-haired hippie boy, Steele. What kind of name is that? I bet your grandpappy was proud of how he got that, huh? Yeah, and Steele's what he did, too. He took the ball from the other team, and he started a running and a jumping. That ain't no way to play basketball. You're not supposed to play it that way. You're supposed to carry the ball down to the free throw place, and then you're supposed to pass it gently to your teammates. And if you want to drive past somebody, you ask permission, and when they say you can, then you tip your hat to them nicely and say, "Thank you, sir." That's the way you play basketball, not this Larry Steele way. Ruined it! I walked away and I ain't never been back. And I'm glad, too, because what about the salaries they make nowadays? You hear about that? They make thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. Ain't nobody need that much money. You know how much money you need? I can tell you. We was happy back then if we got our pea green shag carpet and our yellow refrigerator. That's all a man needs. You keep your TV dinner cold and you keep your feet warm. Anything extra you spend on knickknacks or bingo. Or save it for pills, Sonny, because you're going to need it. You know, the other day I took a pill for my rheumatism, and one pill was $75. $75 for one pill. Back when I had tickets, a player didn't make $75 in a whole season. I can't believe it, and Larry Steele done ruined everything. And you know what else I heard they have now? Three-pointer shots. Three-pointer shots, that's not natural. If God had meant us to shoot three-point shots, he would have told us so. You ever hear about Moses hitting a three-pointer? I don't think so, Sonny. That's not in the good book. You ever read the good book, Sonny?
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey, right?
50 Shades of... 50? Wow, 50 Shades of black and blue. You don't try me. I know fisticuffs. I learned them back in the day. I'll put you on the ground. Don't think I won't. Yeah, but don't touch the glasses, though, 'cause they cost $200. $200 for a pair of glasses. Can you believe that? Whole team didn't make $200 back in my day. but these them fancy new quadrifocal glasses. They got the 4 ways of seeing. They got the normal on the top, and then in the middle they got the driving. They won't let me drive no more, the communists. And then they got the reading in the middle there too. And at the bottom, you got the glasses for looking at the nurses' boobies.
Whoa, hold on there. You can't say that on this. This is on camera.
What do you mean I can't say that? I'm old, but I ain't that old. When I see a pretty nurse, I invite her back to my place and have her run her fingers through my green shag carpet.
Whoa. Okay, that's enough, old man. This interview is over. We're done.
Over? I'll tell you when it's over, and I'll tell you, oh, yeah, this interview is over, all right. It's almost 4 o'clock. The buffet special is going to be over pretty soon, so I got to get going. You got to eat at the buffet because it's economical. Food costs you so much nowadays, thanks to Larry Steele. Yeah, drove up the prices with his running and jumping in his fancy $1,000 contract. Yeah, you go eat at the buffet at 4 o'clock, and then you sit there and stay and look at the ceiling until they bring out the good food at 5 o'clock, but you paid the 4 o'clock price. That's how you make your money, boy. That's how you make your money. But then you got to give it all to the $75 pill guy and the Democrats. But anyway, I got to go. Where's my nurse? Where's my chair? This thing got a lift chair here. You got to assist me out of here. Assist me out of here, boy. Don't be no Larry Steele, no.
Dave, is there any way the Blazers make a play for Rudy Gay? The Grizzlies might trade him now. Samuel.
Now that would be quite the interesting move. Rudy Gay has boundless offensive potential, a lot of talent, he's a bona fide scorer. He would certainly change the look of Portland's lineup. But there are a lot of problems when considering this deal. First of all, who are you going to trade talent-wise? Nicholas Batum would obviously have to be a part of that package, but you can't really sign and trade him comfortably immediately in the summer, so you'd be pushing it off until after December and what have you. It just doesn't make a lot of sense that way. Plus, who would you add in with Batum in order to make the deal work for the Grizzlies? They'd probably want draft picks, and now you're paying kind of a high price for a guy who really is an inefficient scorer, despite his capacity to put in and put up a lot of shots. Also, Rudy Gay's contract is exorbitant. It runs until 2015. It peaks at $19 million a year. That's a really hefty price. We're talking LeBron James, Dwayne Wade money for a player who isn't near that caliber. For all those reasons, I think the Grizzlies might be stuck with Gay, and certainly the Blazers would want to keep their hands off of him because he's not going to make the difference for them, and he's absolutely going to cap them out and drain them of talent.
And Dave, there were plenty of gripes when the NBA-owned New Orleans Hornets won this year's lottery, and now David Stern blew up on radio about it. Any chance the lottery was rigged? Ethan.
No, I don't believe that the lottery is rigged. I tried to avoid those questions right after the lottery. It came back up again, so we'll address it. But I just don't understand how that would work. The only advantage to rigging it with New Orleans is to cement the sale of the team from the league to their new owners. But how would that quid pro quo really work? I mean, you promise the guy, okay, you buy the team, you're going to win the lottery. So he knows he's buying into a system that is totally rigged. And next year he's not going to win it. The year after he's not going to win it. What is he going to do then? The benefit that he gets immediately is going to be overshadowed by having to eventually swim upstream against a rigged system. Plus, if you're the NBA, you don't know the guy from Adam. You've looked at his bona fides, you know his financials, but what's to keep him from backing out of the deal and then narking on all of you, which would upset the whole system, destroy the league, send David Stern to jail probably. It just doesn't make any sense. But I would have a suggestion for the league. I think that this is pretty easy to take care of. Obviously, they don't want to monkey with the way they present the lottery right now on TV. It's great. They draw from the bottom to the top. There's suspense. There's ratings. I think they should keep doing that. But, you know, this is the era of YouTube. This is the era of videocasts. It would be fairly simple to film the whole drawn out 92 combinations drawn because you duplicated stuff lottery in that closed room. to have that camera under secure guard until the results were announced, and then to post the unedited video to NBA.com or YouTube after, so people could see exactly the process that goes on after all the results have been revealed. You don't lose any of the suspense or the drama, and you do gain some credibility. That's what I suggest the NBA should do. And with that, we have come to the end of our time together for this week. We have sure enjoyed being with you. We hope that you have enjoyed it too. Next week will be our draft special. We'll talk about all your particular draft questions about draft players and strategies and what have you, so we look forward to that. Until then, keep up the excitement. Keep reading Blazers Edge for daily posts about all the Blazers draft candidates. Have a fantastic week, and go Blazers!